Good evening. Welcome to the March 10th regular meeting of the Hillsborough Town Board of Commissioners. I will not read the public charge about good conduct in meetings, but it's in the printed agenda if you wish to read that. Do we have any audience comments not related to the printed agenda? Seeing none. Okay, and do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
Move to approve as presented.
Thank you, Kathleen. Eric?
Oh, the closed session is on there.
It is.
It is.
Yes,
Okay,
it
good.
is.
Just wanna
So
make sure.
first, and Kathleen and Evelyn, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And number 4 on the agenda is a presentation. Actually, it's going to be the oath of office for Ian Cantrell.
Like sit down and be easier for me. But Chief made sure this is my first one, so I appreciate that. So thank you all for allowing us to do this tonight. We'd like to introduce our new officers to the town as well as to the board. We have Ian Cantrell. He comes to us as a corporal from Durham County Sheriff's Office. He started his career in 2014. He was a corporal there when he decided to come over to us, thanks to some other people at our agency. He is also a reserve officer with RDU PD, so he does a little extra work on the side. His main job, though, I think, was a canine officer for how many years?
About 6.
6 years, and he actually was able to retain and keep his canine partner when he left Durham County, so I know he was very happy to do that. He also enjoys playing soccer. And he lives in Durham, so.
So do we get to have a third canine?
There's discussions. But, yeah, we're very happy to have him join our team.
To volunteer for friends.
And this is. Repeat after me. I, Ian Matthew Cantrell,
Ian Matthew Cantrell,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United
to
States
support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of North Carolina,
and the Constitution of North Carolina.
that I will be alert and vigilant
And I will be alert and vigilant
to enforce the criminal laws of this state,
to enforce the criminal laws of this state.
that I will not be influenced
That I will not be influenced
in any manner
in any matter
on account of personal bias or prejudice,
on account of personal bias or prejudice.
that I will faithfully and impartially
I will faithfully and impartially
execute the duties of my office
execute the duties of my office
as a police corporal
as a police corporal
according to the best of my skill,
to the best of my skill,
abilities, and judgment.
abilities, and judgment.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations. Next on our agenda, we have a number of appointments. And if it's okay with the board, I'll read these out and then call for a motion to approve all of them at the same time. So Parks and Recreation Board, reappointment of Wendy Kuhn for a term expiring April 1st, 2028. Parks and Recreation Board, appointment of Todd Clayton for a term expiring March 11th, 2028. Tree Board appointment of Matthew Archibald for a term expiring March 11th, 2028. Historic District Commission, appointment of William Warren for a term expiring March 31st, 2028. And Historic District Commission, reappointment of Hannah Peel for a term expiring March 31st, 2028.
Move to approve the appointments as presented.
Second. Thank you, Kathleen. Thank you, Matt. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, and on to the consent agenda. Do we have a motion to approve?
Move to approve as presented.
Sorry, Kathleen. Rob, is that, Rob seconds? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that brings us to our regular agenda, and first up is a police department update and 2024 summary.
I'll get his presentation.
You're fun taking pictures.
Yeah. Didn't work that in.
Is there a second? I actually have a little handheld for.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Share the screen. Always forget that.
All right. Thank you again. So soon. So tonight we want to do an update of the police department, do like a recap of 2024. We know we provide you with the quarterly transparency reports, but this is like a wrap up. And we also wanted to do some highlights to put some things in there maybe you guys didn't know about or hit some areas that you might find interesting. So we'll go ahead and get started. Okay. So for 2024, we had 5,529 dispatch calls and 6,626 self-initiated activities. So as you can see, it's 12,155 total events. Did a little math for you. But what that shows also is we're a smaller town, but we have a lot of activity that goes on. And if you look at the self-initiated activities in comparison to the dispatch calls, that shows that the officers are initiating this work. They're interacting with the community. They're checking on suspicious people and vehicles. They're engaging in follow-up activities to try to solve crime. So we're proud of that factor, that it's not just radio dispatch is all the work that they do. They try to do those extra steps. And if you look here, we have our 5-year quarterly offense trends. And these are our part 1 crimes: homicide, rape, robbery, ag assault, burglary, and motor vehicle theft. You saw that we had some pretty highs going up in 2021 and 2022, but things seem to be leveling back down a little bit. We still have some homicides, but we're not happy about that, of course. But we're working on that, and I think that our efforts are showing.
Are you saying, one of the things that, particularly during the pandemic, sexual assault, rape and domestic violence and interpersonal violence was a big issue, and I'm seeing our numbers are relatively flat.
Mm-hmm.
I know that gun violence has been rising. What are you, the homicide numbers are, that's telling us one thing, but what are you seeing? What's behind, from your perspective, of the increased gun violence and, the homicide rates?
Sure. Well, if you look at the homicides we've had, from what we've seen, they've been a lot of crimes of opportunity, or it wasn't always from known people. It would be maybe people were unfortunate events sometimes, or people come from out of town. It just, I wish I could put a specific reason behind it, but I don't believe there is one. I think that they're circumstantial at best, because through the investigation, we find the motives out. None of them have a link or a true rhyme or reason to be tied to Hillsborough.
Is it more just related to the fact that we're overflowing with guns and people reach for a weapon rather than behind the woodshed and to duke it out?
I wish people would do that instead.
Yeah,
I will say that I think also poverty rates,
okay.
cause people to commit certain crimes, and can lead towards increased acts of violence. During COVID, we saw a lot more domestic violence like you talked about. We've recently implemented the LAP program.
Mhm.
And I think that's also provided more resources to people, but I think it's also brought more attention to domestic violence. And I think people are more likely to report it now, which I think is a positive.
I was gonna ask you about the LAP program because, you know, in other jurisdictions, when that is put into place, a lot of preemptive work can occur that prevents. Are we seeing that happening in our community?
It's hard to assess that right now because we haven't been doing it that long. But as part of adding our social worker, which I'll get to, she's helping with domestic violence follow-ups, but she's also going to be integrated into our LAP program. And we also talked to Ashley Machado, who's the CCDR director, Orange County. She's going to come and do in-house training for us, especially since we've had newer officers. So we want to make sure that everyone gets up to speed on that. Anyone have anything else on slide?
Well, let me ask you a procedural question here. Would you like for us to, I want to give everybody an opportunity to ask everything, but I don't want to overwhelm you with questions. So do you?
You can go ahead. It's fine.
No, I'm not for me personally. I'm just saying it's.
Oh, I'm okay if people ask throughout. It's fine. So here's our arrest data. So as you can see, the one I really want to focus on is the one on the right. If you look at the resident, non-resident arrest data, you can see that 54% of our arrests are made from non-residents of Hillsborough. So we have a lot of traveling people who come through our community, visitors, and I believe it skews our numbers quite a bit because I don't want our residents to get a bad rap. But we have a lot of people who come from Durham, Chapel Hill, Burlington, Greensboro, all different areas, and they decide that this is the place where they'd like to have a little fun in the wrong way. So, and as you can see, we have a pretty decent balance in terms of the other types of arrests we carry out in terms of custodial, which is actually the smallest percentage compared to issuing citations or summonses or doing a warrant service. So and custodial arrest, just for those who don't know, is just on view arrest. We respond to the crime, they committed in front of us, or we get a report, we see them there, and we place handcuffs on them right then. So talking about arrests and activity, we get into our internal accountability. And so I want to take a second just to give a quick overview of use of force in regards to response to resistance and what happens with that. So we go respond to a scene. It could be a disturbance, it could be domestic violence, it could be a theft. And people don't like being told to stop what they're doing or stop to be arrested. So sometimes we get forms of resistance, and what we consider a use of force is anything above the level of soft hand guidance. So just simply placing handcuffs on somebody. So if we have to jerk their arm behind their back, or if they start turning and we have to push them against a wall and hold them in place, we count that as a use of force, we record it, and we review it. We want to make sure that we cover everything. We make sure that we're following good practices, that everyone is following policy and general statute, and that everyone is observing everyone's rights. Once it goes through the review process, it goes through multiple channels. So the forms have to be completed. It's sent up to the internal accountability manager, which currently is Major Simmons. He then will assign it to an internal investigator. It'll either be me or a lieutenant, or he could choose to do it himself. After that's done, we then have what we call an administrative review, where somebody looks over and makes sure all procedures were followed correctly and that they agree with the outcome. Once that's finally done, we then share that with the officers, and anything that may come up, it could be a commendation they get because they did a great job in such a horrible situation, or it could be where they need some form of coaching or counseling, anything like that. And that brings us to our PEW system. So in terms of accountability, we want to make sure that if people are engaging in these uses of force or pursuits, complaints, or an internal review, or a combination of any of them, that'll then trigger up what they call a flag, and we'll do a PEWS review. It's the same as an internal accountability review, except for we're looking for patterns of behavior. So we have systems and policy that, will trigger the pews, certain amount of events. And then it's then brought to us, and then we, initiate a review, and it has to occur within a 12-month period. Sorry, I think I need some water. Apologize. Thank you so much. Okay, so once we do the review, it's then brought forth to the IA manager, who then either concurs or doesn't concur with it, and then it goes to the chief of police. And what we do is we want to make, I always tell the officers, my goal is to always say that there's no pattern behavior, that everything you do is reasonable within policy. But if we find something outside of that, we have to talk about it. And depending on how bad it is, will determine our conversation.
So you mentioned that 12-month. And of course, our guys are all wonderful, our guys and gals are wonderful, perfect. But in the event it's like uneven, you know, you have there's behaviors, there's a lull of behaviors, but it doesn't fit in that 12-month. I mean, does that mean it's then hidden?
No.
Or is it, and I mean, it's not visible, that's a better word,
Sure.
hidden's the wrong word, but.
So one thing that we do is that we keep a log of every year, going back to, I couldn't tell you what year, where we can look for past behaviors. Because a lot of times we'll see something happen, we don't want to look at things in isolation.
Right.
So we might say, let's look back and see if this is something that keeps popping up for this individual, or if it's something that is, it depends on how egregious it is.
Right.
But we also want to know something as simple as this officer receiving a lot of counselings just for forgetting to cut on their body camera. You know, or if stuff goes unnoticed. One of the biggest issues we had for a lot of years was when they switch from supervisor to supervisor, sometimes all the documentation and notes doesn't get transferred to the other person. So using our Guardian tracking system, it's then we assign in the hierarchy to the new supervisor, and then that information is shared with them. So that way everyone's kept up to date. And simply put, we just want to say that we do more. No, I can't think of any other agencies around us who review as much as we do for the level of instances that we do, so. So getting into trust and legitimacy, we looked at accreditation. So we completed the NCL and risk review, and I promised a shout out to Marshall Grayson, our management analyst. He's been instrumental in all of this, and now he's working very hard in getting us the NCLEA state accreditation, which we'll be very proud to have. We've been doing some work with some mentors and other agencies, and we're on very good track to get that completed. By when? As soon as we can. Hopefully soon, but yeah, he's working very hard on that, and we're all working together, so just a little update on that.
Is that Kalia?
No,
Okay, I was about to say, I was getting nightmares for a moment.
so North Carolina came up with their own state accreditation,
Okay,
so yeah, we're not going that way. An area that's been of concern for a lot of agencies, including us over the years, is staffing, recruiting, and retention. If you look at what we have, you can see the red line, we have an authorized FTEs of 34. Technically 34.4 because we have a part-time evidence tech. But as you can see over the years, it's gone up, well, excuse me, the months, starting from December 2023 to current, we've gone up and down, up and down, up and down. And it's gone for many reasons. But if you look at the note at the bottom, we have 3 pending hires. So it's not included. We have 2 people in BLET, so we don't count them until they graduate, just because you can't bank on those always. And then also we have a sergeant who just completed a internal, external promotional process, who's going to be starting with us in April. And this gives you a little bit different view. These are hires, resignations, and terminations. So people come and go for a variety of different reasons. We're hoping for just retirements, but sometimes people don't always work out, or they find that Hillsborough isn't the right fit for them, or we find out that Hillsborough is not the right fit for them. And so we have to make decisions, but it's been a little a little rough, but I think we're starting to get to a good place. I'm very happy with the people we're getting.
Would, a retired, how would that, if somebody retired, would that be resigned or would it show up in there at all?
That would be, it wouldn't show up in there at all. It would?
Retired, resigned, well,
You leave it there? Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Voluntary exits. Sorry.
In terms of, external pressure from other agencies who are looking to hire or poach, our officers, is that, I mean, a couple of years ago, it was really bad. And I'm just curious from your perspective, is there still a lot of pressure from other agencies who are trying to staff up and look to Hillsborough?
At times, yes. We hear through the grapevine, different people talking, and we try to address it where appropriate. And we also try to be respectful of other agencies as well. I think the biggest issues we've seen are, especially with younger officers, they're looking for sometimes more opportunities within an agency. And so we've been working very hard at trying to remedy that. The next slide I'll show you, but not the next one, but a couple after. We try to create more lateral opportunities within the agency by revisiting how we do our patrol operations in terms of staffing and try to be creative. So we still address the needs of patrol while allowing people to still step out and into different divisions, or we'll just say specializations.
Like cross training, some just, or shadowing, just some expansion of the roles so that they get more experience.
Some of that, or we have like short-term stints in different divisions, or creating a new position that allows them to try something out for a year or something like that.
Oh, cool.
Mhm. So in terms of recruiting outreach, one area that we're looking to do is we signed up with the Handshake Career Platform. So we signed up with the HBCUs Central and A&T, who will then give us notifications. So that way we can go to their job fairs or different markets and try to reach populations that maybe we just haven't been able to reach before. And try to really get our recruiting pool to increase, especially when it comes to those who have ready to start their careers. So that's been really important to us. And we've also made some lateral focus recruiting changes. We implemented a referral bonus. That's been very helpful, as well as a service credit increase. We went from 1.5% per year of credible service to 3 years, 3%. And we've seen a lot of interest from that. So that's been very positive. We have our new social worker, Yasmin.
Yes,
Can we go back?
yeah, what is the service credit and how does that work? Do you get?
We want to incentivize experience. So people who come from another agency, we can't start them off as like a brand new officer rate. So we try to give people credit for their years of service or their experience at other agencies. So however many years they have multiplied by 3%. So that way they can be more within that pay range that is a little more enticing, I guess, to come to our agency. Yes.
Thank you.
Have we ever done Explorer? I think is it Explorer in the high school shadowing and law enforcement? Have we ever done that in Hillsborough?
We had an Explorer program before I even started with Hillsborough, that we still had the uniforms.
Oh, wow.
So, but I heard that it wasn't, it didn't get seen all the way through.
Okay.
And that might even been prior to Chief Hampton starting.
Yeah, it was. We didn't have the volume to maintain it internally with staff, and we didn't have the interest to maintain it externally.
But we have had interns from high school,
Okay.
so that's been a positive, people who are interested in law enforcement, so, we do that.
Cool. Thank you.
So replacing Savannah, our old social worker, I'll say old, previous. We now have Yasmin Washington. She started with us in January. She's been a great addition to the team. She is really excited about working with our department, but also she's developed quite a few clients. She's been doing a lot of cross training in Chapel Hill, Carrboro, Orange County. And she's getting busier. So, and she actually, even today, she came up with an idea. She wanted to go to the local laundromats to try to get clothing, so that way she can give them to some of our homeless population to make sure that they have clothes or sometimes we want to make sure they have food or get to their doctor's appointments. We've seen that be very helpful for us. And also having the social workers been very beneficial is that they keep track of where all of these, their clients, where they're at. And are they staying on top of their medication and their doctor's appointments? So that's been very helpful. So speaking of mental health outcomes, this year, as you can see, we've had 53% of our calls, or 89 total mental health interactions. So 53% were involuntary commitments. 25% were people who just wanted to go to the hospital. We were assisting them in that endeavor. Emergency commitments, which are the ones that are usually a little dangerous. Those are at 17%. And then sometimes we go to these calls and we find that the family is able to handle it. Everything is okay. And so we don't take any action at that point. We keep track of all of those.
Is that rising or stable or what's the,
I feel like it's kind of been ebbing and flowing right now. Hopefully with the social worker, some of these, the numbers will go down some, but the more no actions or voluntary commitments we get, the better things are. Let's take a brief second to talk about technology that we have implemented in the agency. So the top left, it looks like a regular like laptop for everybody else, but for us, it's a big increase. So we now have Surface laptops with the detectives, which has been great because they can take them out on crime scenes, different jurisdictions. They actually used a WebEx platform where they can execute search warrants, get them signed. Take notes, verbal notes.
you can do search warrants online?
So they do like a FaceTime WebEx with the Superior Court judge. And they'll sign off on them digitally and get us everything we need. So that's been very beneficial. We have the body cam 4s. So I'm not wearing one right now, but I usually, if I wear a regular uniform, I would. But they've been great. They have great picture quality. And the nice thing about the new ones, they can tag their videos while on the street where they used to have to put them into a program. It just takes a step away. We have the new Taser 7, which is a less lethal option. And these are really cool because they look like something from Star Trek or something, so they're not as intimidating. And they're supposed to be way more accurate. So that's a positive. And then we also, this seems so simple too, but we now have MiFis in every patrol car.
Hallelujah.
And so officers are super excited about that. We used to have connection issues, VPN issues all the time. Computer abilities were our best friends, but we're hoping that this will reduce those numbers and just make things more efficient for everybody. For community engagement, we call it now the Community Services Division, and Sergeant Scott Foster has been amazing with that. I always said when I heard that the Fairview Community Watch, they baking pies, they gave him awards. So
I can attest, I've been there when they did it.
I'm gonna highlight some stuff after this that he's been a great big part of, but he's surpassed what I even thought he would even want to do. He's taken it on and he loves it. So
I
if you
said
look,
he had huge shoes to fill for Teresa Matthews.
oh, absolutely.
And we really, the whole community watch really wondered what was going to happen with Corporal Matthews retiring. He has been amazing, absolutely amazing.
Yeah, we're very proud of everything he's done. He's been an asset to our agency forever, but he's taken this role on and expanded it in different ways. If you look there, we had almost 740 total community engagement hours for the whole department. For 2024, that's pretty cool. And we're actually adding a new community services officer, Officer Curry Hall. So actually, the 13th, Wednesday,
All right.
Thursday, he'll be starting to transition over. We're hoping to get the, I don't want to get there, future stuff, but we're going to expand some of our offerings. So we'll get into that in a minute. So just some highlights of some events that we love. This is Foster's baby, Crafts with a Cop. We go to the Passmore Center. It's the only class, they say, that is filled up immediately when it's put out. And we love going over there and interacting. We always hear the funniest stuff and we really enjoy engaging with that population. We have Straw for Dogs, which is another one of Foster's babies. And it's amazing just to see the impact he can have with all the different communities. And those animals obviously appreciate it, you can tell. So,
He's also done the water for dogs, which has been a godsend.
have you seen the Popsicles?
Yes.
Yeah. It's like a frozen hot dog thing. We wouldn't like it, but you know, dogs love it. Winter Wonderland, their toy drive. It's been a great mainstay for the past few years. So now we're just gonna shift into new priorities. So we did an employee satisfaction survey. What month was that, Chief? Fall?
Yeah.
Yeah.
July.
Summer?
Yeah, the results came in July.
Okay, thank you, sir. And so we've been taking those survey results, trying to figure out what we're gonna do with them, how we're gonna make changes in the agency to make us that better agency. And part of that was in creating an employee sounding board, which we're getting ready to have our next meeting next month, where we engage with that committee and they give us feedback. And then we try to bounce ideas off each other and just see what we can do to keep pushing us forward, because no agency is perfect. But that's something that we want to make sure we continue to follow up on. And so what does 2025 look like? So talking about expanding the community services division, we want to get our community police academy.
Found my notebook. The manual,
Oh, you haven't?
I do.
Okay, I might want to look at that.
I'll make it out to bring it in.
I appreciate that. So we're definitely working on bringing this program back. It's gonna take some coordination and some logistics, but we'll share that all with you as we get things moving forward. Post-transition, so obviously with Chief Hampton leaving, it's gonna be a lot of change, but we wanna make sure that we continue to carry the agency forward as he would want us to do. So we're gonna be looking at setting goals, looking at our departmental structure to make sure that the alignment's correct, that we have the right level of supervision as needed, and the opportunities like we talked about were available for internal candidates. But last but not least, I'd just like to ask, what would you like to see from us going into 2025 and forward? And if you don't have anything right now, it's okay. So,
Well, I'd like to see a lot of just continuation of what we're doing. We're doing so much well. I mean, community policing, community services, that's what's near and dear. It has been for 20 odd years. It's, so I'm excited to see a second person. I used to be concerned because, for a while, that officer didn't get a chance to do promotions, which I thought was not right, because that was so important on prevention. And that trust building in the community, especially in populations of our community where we needed more, not less. So, I'm really excited to see that encouraged and built up. I'd like to see us continue with the community summits and those, the Spanish speaking, as well as the broader. I hope we do incorporate red teaming. Think, Right, Share, and Weighted Anonymous. I just learned a new pre-mortem, which is so wicked cool. I would love to tell you about that.
Okay.
But I think that the more we use some of those, apply critical thinking with the neuroscience that will surface what people are already thinking. And talking at the water cooler in ways, at the right time, without having it drips and drabs, the more it will help you succeed. But I'm just really excited to see us continue. I really would like to find some way, and I know y'all do too. It's the gun violence, the interpersonal violence, some of the things that we're seeing. It's disturbing. It used to be that, when the out of towners would come, they would kind of like lay low, and they're not laying low. And I don't know what is behind it. It used to be, you know, what I would hear, and I don't know if this is true, so. What I used to hear, it would be because our canines were so, you know, we had such a strong program. Humans will miss, the dog never will. And I'd like to see us more on the positive side, you know, with the, you know, the canine egg hunts, the things which it's the positive of having our canine officers in place. But I think it does do a good deterrence without causing harm.
Mhm.
And I'm probably not saying, there's probably better ways to,
I get what you mean.
yeah, but it's things that the, you know, the gun violence, some of that really is disturbing, because I'm, you know, I'm starting to hear people being a little bit antsy in places where I haven't heard in 15, 20 years. And I hate to see that.
Yes.
So I'll be quiet.
I would keep going around the table. Rob,
Sure.
would you?
Sure. So similar to Kathleen, more the same. So you know, I think continue doing what you're doing. So I think you're doing a really good job of it. Recruitment and retention is always one for me. So you know, how we can not only lure people here, but keep people here. Diversity of the force, so that, you know, obviously continue to try to have a diverse police force that kind of represents our residents, and which again, I believe we do a really good job of. But yeah, so really just kind of a lot of the same. And also from you all, like what, you know, I feel we do a pretty good job of supporting your needs, and I just want to make sure that we continue to do that, whether it's technology or people or other resources. You know, please let us know what you need to do your job, and we'll do our best to fulfill you with those needs. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Rob. So yeah, in addition to what my colleagues have said, yeah, I'm very supportive and interested in expanding community policing, and been an advocate for the social worker and law enforcement for many years, and was glad to see that we got that grant opportunity. So I'm interested in 2025, how we're assessing the value. So we can, I want to make the case that we need to keep a social worker on staff, because I think we do. And anyway, so I'm very curious about that process, and because I know that there's a term limit on that grant, and that we have to decide if it's not going to be expanded, renewed from DHHS, then we need to come up with funding. I just want to make sure we're justifying it properly.
I think it's actually been funded now. So
For 2 more years, or?
when the grant runs out, it's gonna be an FTE with the town of Hillsborough.
Yay.
So you're saying that we have internally found,
I don't remember what the cutoff date is when the grant runs out, but the financial model already has us moving forward if there's not a second grant. You approved the budget, so.
Grant ends in July, so that we would pick up the position in July.
So,
So it's in this upcoming budget, I think, as a new position.
right, so yeah, legally, we only adopt 1 year, but it was in the 3-year radar going forward, so.
that's what comes to mind right now. Yeah, thank you.
I was just gonna say, ditto what my colleagues have said. And I don't know if this is a different way of getting this information, graphically speaking. Not knocking you, chief, but it's prettier.
I wish I could take credit.
But
Marshall again.
You've made it prettier, Marshall. But I do think that being able to, you know, see things like the residency of folks is really important. And, you know, further drilling down on things like, you know, how folks come into custody and those sorts of things. And I think that paints an even different picture of, you know, the custodial arrests being such a small part of the arrests that occur, that, you know, normally it's, you know, I'm sure it's like a failure to appear being a common one, or outstanding warrants in other jurisdictions. Maybe that, I assume that if you pull someone over and everything's good traffic wise, but you see the warrant, is that considered warrant service at that point?
It
Or
would be a warrant service, yes.
so, you know, it really appears as though the folks who are, you know, coming into our custody, having committed a crime here in town in real time is pretty low. While also the fact that so many people come through Hillsborough on 5 different highways. I think if I got them all, 6 maybe, different highways, that there's a lot of opportunities for folks from out of town to, you know, come into contact with police, and that, you know, when colleagues in other jurisdictions ask me about, you know, what our police department's doing in different things, because they're thinking about it, and I'm like, oh, well, we've had body cameras since 2013. Oh, we've done, you know, use of force, you know, restricting what those look like, or when they're used, and well, but that was done several years ago. So I like the fact that Hillsborough is continually, you know, ahead of the curve, especially for a relatively small jurisdiction. And what I like to say is, if Hillsborough can do it, you have no excuse, you know, it's just scalability. You know, I'm heartened to know, or reminded, since we do approve the budget, that, you know, we've committed ourselves to funding a social worker for, you know, future fiscal years. So overall, I would say continue what y'all are doing. Don't be afraid to switch things up, which I know y'all are. And, you know, I'm heartened that we have new officers that will come on board this fiscal year, but I know that's always a moving target.
We're hoping to slow it down, so.
So, but I do feel like every once in a while I'll, or maybe it's been more recent, I'll see officers out in the community. And I think I was out having dinner and saw Officer West with a relatively new officer.
Officer Batson.
Yes. And I do sometimes feel like, wow, there's another one, there's another new one. But I'm glad, and I hope those folks who seem to skew a little younger, you know, find Hillsborough as a good place to work, and a place they want to stay and build some seniority.
Thank you.
Megan?
I could say, repeat many of the things that the fellow colleagues have also mentioned, but a couple of things I wanted to touch on that I highlighted as you went through your presentation. A couple of things that you pointed out, the total activity calls for dispatch versus self-initiated, or like, I hope that I'm taking your point correctly, and that it's showing that our officers have initiative to just, you know, not wait for the phone or the radio to go off.
That's exactly right.
So that was, I'm glad you pointed that one out. Another point that I don't really know if we wouldn't have the data to correlate it, but like the residency versus non-residency arrest and our community action, that we're in our community, building the trust and everything with these communities. I hope that, you know, the more that we do that, and this increased officer to do that position will actually make that orange pie a little bit smaller. And then also, as it was mentioned before, just open communication between yourself and the board. And I guess the only other one is you had 2 firsts done, like sworn in
I know.
and your first presentation to us.
I swear it's been on purpose.
Just get it all done in one shot,
That's
right?
right. That's
It's
right.
great, thank you.
And no pressure with With an audience.
Taking notes.
They'll be critiquing later, right?
Right, sure.
But,
Well, I don't see anything wrong that you're doing.
Thank you.
Think you're doing a good job and seeing it start in the nineties and come up to now, and it's so much nicer. As I tell everybody, you all have the same type car, they're all the same basically colors. They're not all different colors like it used to be. You have a building that doesn't leak, and all the reports got read, and so I've seen the department come a long way, and I think all of you have done a good job. I commend the chief back there. And I welcome you and hope that you are going to enjoy this opportunity, this great opportunity of dealing with all of us, and hope that we behave, especially the board better behave.
Is that a concern?
Never.
You have to watch him, especially when he drives.
I try to behave myself in that.
Very, very fast. And I think he has better more because they've been riding together. But and thank you, Marshall, for this nice report, and I think you covered it all. And I'm very pleased, and I like the other one that you've had. I think you've all are doing a good job, and if there's anything I might can help you with, you can always whisper in my ear that we need another dog, and I'll try for 5 years to get it for you. If I think that.
Yeah, I'm advocating for that third dog.
We'll look at what we got. We'll see what we can do. So.
Yeah, Matt, go ahead.
I have one actually other question that came up as Commissioner Dare was mentioning, self-initiated versus dispatch calls. I'm kind of curious because I downloaded the See Something, Say Something app, and I've not seen anything to say anything. But I'm curious, like what that looks like, how many, tips y'all get from there. I know it's anonymous and that sort of thing. Like, I don't know if there's a subscription attached to it or not, but I'm just kind of curious how that all works.
If I'm correct, we don't get a lot. Yes.
A couple a year.
Okay.
It's very, very low volume.
But we also find that people don't mind us calling the main line and talking to us.
Okay.
So that's a positive. We-
Or through Facebook or, a million other ways. That app just isn't, the most popular way.
I'll admit, I signed up for it because if I did need to see something, or I did see something and I needed to say something, I didn't want it to be like, well, Commissioner Hughes is on it, so we gotta respond immediately. I just wanted to be able to, just like any other member of the public, be able to share information as I saw it, but I haven't had a need to.
Yeah, I have it, and I'm glad you asked that because I've never seen anything of this there, and I haven't had it either. Whenever I have, when to sleep, I call.
We try to be very receptive.
It's very popular in the schools with their advertisement. I wonder if
Okay.
maybe the sheriff.
I have an oddball question. I'm seeing our old police patches for sale on eBay. What's up with that?
It's not me.
I know.
No.
What's up with that? And is that even permissible legal? Cause that looks like that would be kind of,
I know we have people who collect, like people will call us and ask for patches or badges, not badges, excuse me, or challenge coins.
well, charge coins,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm used to that, but this is an actual patch. It's the old one that I've seen. I haven't seen the current one.
I'm sure get the current one. There's no, it's an item that people collect.
Okay,
So it's common, there's nothing illegal about
okay,
it.
so people are not getting it to impersonate or weird things?
We've had no instances of that.
Okay. Cool, that's just kind of like,
And when we get rid of old uniforms, we take the patches off and we cut them up.
okay,
So we want to make sure that we're not. doing this. So, but if somebody happened to keep their uniforms, or I guess anyone can honestly order.
Yeah, you could go to a patch maker and have them design a patch in
But the authority all comes from the badge, so
Yeah.
I think they'd have a harder time getting their hands on that.
Cool. Yeah, a lot of people notice the price tag on these, and I'm like, are you freaking kidding me?
It's out of print.
It's going up.
It's very.
It's, the last
it's a
I
collector's
saw,
item.
it was at $46 plus shipping, which was I was like, I don't know what you would probably cost for that shipping, but good lord, it had to be by pack.
Okay, well, thank you. We have 3 more items on the agenda to get to. We appreciate you and your crew. And good job.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Okay, I don't see Stephanie here, Matt or Shannon, who's doing the speed limit?
We don't really have a presentation. Happy to answer any questions if you on the speed limit. Or I can just get up and tell you what it's about.
Sure, let's do that. Make it official.
Mayor, members of the board, this is a follow-up from, the update you all received for the US 70 traffic, safety plan. You all at that point asked us if we could explore reducing the speed limit on the section that goes through town. Stephanie followed up with NCDOT. They performed a traffic study, and based on the experience, there, they are supportive of recommending a decrease to 35 miles per hour. In order to do that, the board has to repeal an ordinance that was passed in 1980, asking for a higher speed limit on US 70. The contents of that ordinance are lost to time. Nobody has any idea what it says, and so this is a very general repeal of that ordinance and ask DOT to revert to the statewide status, which is 35 miles per hour in town limits.
Move to repeal.
Hang on 1 second. Let's do some questions. Evelyn, do you have any questions? No? Megan? No?
The only question, I have is, I know this is just related to Cornelia Street. Is that the only street in town that is set to 45 miles an hour?
It's the only one I'm aware of that has an ordinance that you all have passed asking for an increase. Major, do you have any other ideas? That's the only one I can think of in town limits.
Okay. Because if it was, if there were others where we might need to do this, you know, I wouldn't want to just limit it to Cornelia Street, but, other than that, I'm good.
My only question is around, signage in terms of and see, DOT is gonna provide the signage, but when you make a change, there's often a month or 2 or 3 of additional signage because, there's been a change here, or, put some fluorescent yellow, smaller signs on the post to announce that there is a change there. Are you familiar with?
Yeah, so in advance of where the speed limit signs are, there'll be another temporary sign that says, reduced speed limit ahead. And they'll have 2 like pink day glow flags out of them to draw your attention before the new signs that have the 35 mile per hour speed limit. And those will be there for a period of time. I'm not sure how long,
Okay, thank you.
but they are temporary. They won't stay there.
Great, thank you.
I don't have a question. It's really just a comment. I appreciate Stephanie and staff bringing this to us. Because I think I think it's gonna make a big difference in the long run. We'll see, we'll see down the road, but thank you for advocating for that and bringing it to our attention so we could make something happen.
Kathleen?
Move to repeal the 45 and institute 35 mile per hour in its place.
Thanks, Kathleen. Thank you, Megan, for the second. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, Matt.
So DOT orders the signs before they go up.
See what's much money. No handout.
Okay. Next on the agenda, we'll continue discussion about potential America 250th anniversary celebration.
Just saying I like the drones.
All right, so this isn't the prettiest thing I've ever put together, but I didn't have a whole lot of time, so I tried to put some pictures on it. So based on the last conversation that we had about A250, I talked with some of the Alliance and, just kind of, synthesized the information that I heard from you all, kind of ran it back past Matt and kind of outlined 2 potential event ideas as well as, banners. This is just a pretend banner. This isn't real. Public information has not vetted this. It is, I am not printing it. So everyone knows, just a placeholder. But I did get some pricing on the pole banners that we hang up, like the Welcome to Hillsborough ones. So we could design that, if you all wanted to do that. And basically kind of outlined a basic morning event and an evening event because it is 1,000 degrees during the day. I know some places do have daytime events. I don't know how they keep people alive during those events, but it is very, very hot on July 4th. So I was kind of thinking morning or evening. The evening is substantially more expensive because of the drone show, but also potentially needing like the generator lights. So they're basically these self-contained generators. We have them for the holiday parade, so you may have seen them before. We might need a few of those. The morning event could potentially just kind of operate on the courthouse lawn. I envision that being maybe smaller, more community-based. Obviously, if we offer some type of a drone light show, I think we're gonna get substantially more people, and we would probably have to do that in River Park with Orange County's permission. I met with the tourism board. They seemed like they were excited about it and would potentially be a funding partner. And I have not met with TDA, but 4th of July is on a Saturday that year in 26. So if we could market it as kind of a heads in beds type of thing, I think TDA would be interested in cost sharing as well. So I know you haven't had a lot of time to look at this because I was trying to work on it and get it in front of you, but I wasn't sure if there was any initial thoughts, direction.
You know me, I'm liking the drone light show. I want us to be first in doing something like that and set the standard. I do think it will draw people from around, and I think that is good for bringing follow-on traffic to the community. A lot of times that will happen. And I think we can get funding, and I think we could get donations. I think we could probably get naming rights. I love, it's also something I think when you look back, it's 50 years from now. It's a big deal. It's something to be proud of, not as business as usual.
Okay, thank you, Kathleen. Rob?
Thank you, Shannon. It looks good. Again, I'm more about scale for our size. But don't have anything against the drone show. I'd really like to see one, honestly, but my worry is if we do something like that, that people are gonna may expect that every 4th of July. So just something to think about if we do a big evening event, that just may kind of set an expectation that we're gonna do that regularly, and I don't think that, I wonder if that's possible or not. And then it would, you know, I think take, some partnership with Orange County to want to provide some space, but then also some logistics and security, I would assume too. But I love what you've come up with. So who do we envision kind of coordinating, planning, and running this whole thing? Or is it a combination of several partnerships that we would have?
So, me and my staff don't have the capacity to do it because, and I think I mentioned to someone earlier, I could do it. It's definitely within my expertise and wheelhouse. However, my concern would be that as the town kind of continues to grow, this is pretty far out. A developer would drop a really big project or something on my desk like 2 months before this. And my gosh. So I don't think we have the capacity in-house. I did put a line item both for the morning and the evening for some type of an event manager and some staffing. added more for a bigger event in the evening and a little bit less for a smaller event in the morning. So I would assume we would maybe have to hire somebody part-time contract basis. I'd have to work that out a little bit more with HR and see how if we would do that as like a 1099 employee or whatever, but, there is some precedent, Katie Murray with Orange County Arts Commission has, hired part-time helpers for various, like for Uproar.
Yeah.
So I think there are people in the community that, would potentially be able to take on this work, hopefully.
Good.
But yeah, I've built into the budget some
I'm
staffing and
sorry, I
someone
didn't see
to,
that, but that was my worry is.
yeah,
which
someone to
follow.
order the porta potties and make sure they get where they're supposed to be and just coordinate all the logistics, make sure we have the tables and chairs and everything we need for the event.
Okay.
Thank you for the information and the layout that makes it easier to think about, how the town might approach doing its part for the celebration. So thank you for that. That's a great first draft of that. And regarding the staffing of that, I'm hoping that we can look to the Alliance and the museum so the town could contract with them and they know staffing options as well. So I think because they both do events and they're both really invested in promoting Hillsborough and celebrating unique history. So I'm hoping that, don't expect the town to take this on. Fully expect that you would work with those two organizations and maybe others who could then staff this. And I think also, in addition to this, I think there still needs to be some conversation about how we coordinate the kind of the calendar of events. Is not just on that one day, it's going to be multiple events over time. I want to make sure that especially our tourism program is staffed to help with this extra work that needs to be done as well. So clearly in the purview of the tourism board and TDA as well. Did you have a chance to reach out to Travis at the county or to have any kind of conversation? Would they be interested in exploring cost sharing and sponsoring and participating?
Yeah, I haven't been able to have that conversation. We had a event that was taking up a lot of time and energy and brain power that I don't think is going to end up happening. So I think we can kind of move on from that and start to coordinate more on this. But I definitely would be getting up with Travis Vogel with Deeper and Travis Marin and seeing if there was opportunities there. And with regard to what the other organizations are doing and talking with the museum and the Alliance, I think everyone's kind of waiting right now to see what kind of grants are issued from the A250 group. So I think we'll have a better picture in maybe a week or two when they get those like final grant notices.
Great, and hopefully additional grant opportunities along the way too. Yeah. Well, thank you. Appreciate it.
Are you gonna say anything about, this glancing at this, are you gonna mention William Hooper and the Santa's Declaration?
Yeah, that, I didn't go into a ton about what the speakers or the programming would look like. I just kind of gave some ideas, but yeah, we could.
Yeah, I mean, that's really important.
Mhm.
And I don't know, I guess everybody knows that there's a vault that is buried out near, I guess, used to be a well house. Eric, was it a well house that's beside of the town hall? There's a vault buried there that's to be opened 100 years, and I can't remember when the 100 years started. I know it was before I was on the board, and I know my mother and father were dressed. Daddy was keeper of the clock, and he had a costume. I was gonna bring a picture, and I didn't have time, forgot it. And my mother had a costume, and people wore costumes of that era, and marched down Burton Street, but it was before. I don't know, I can't remember what year it was, because I don't think I was on the Pharmaceutical Association, and we did the same thing for it on its something birthday, and I can find that out. But people brought things, well, you came to pharmacists, brought things for us, you know, prescription blanks and stuff, and so in 100 years, you'd see what it would look like, but I don't know how it would compare to something like this, of how it would, 1776 and what year? What the difference, if you want to compare, I don't know. Oh, and then opening it, there won't be anybody here. In 100 years, just like there won't be with the Pharmaceutical Association, nor the one here, but the one here came after the Pharmaceutical Association. And I had a big part in that, but that was a lot easier because it was my profession. And this, and so it was just whoever was on that board. So I don't know, but I don't think we need another vote, but somebody had better remember, Eric can remember. Or else the lawyer can remember in 100 years that is dug out, that is out there. I want one of you to be sure to get it open.
I can't remember the date on it. It may be like 50 years from now, but I remember when I saw it, I said, well, I'm not gonna be here to see it open, but maybe my kids will. But it's out there.
I fully intend to be here.
Well, then,
In
I
50
would
years.
report you personally.
All right,
As to try to remember I'll try to get the date of that, but I don't know, it should be in the minutes.
Yeah,
make sure
It's
that.
on the capsule, you can,
I was
can't-
gonna say, isn't there a little plaque or something out
Yeah,
there?
there's
'Cause
something
I was
out
walking
there.
around one day and I like stumbled on, like, over it, walked over it, and I was like, what is this? Cause I thought it was first.
During COVID,
I was like, oh.
I've seen it because during COVID, there was not much to do unless you were outside, so I think I've just
No,
about
I-
surveyed all of town
I
hall.
think that's the reason I think people don't want everybody to know where it is because they might dig it up.
Trying to get up.
Mhm.
Maybe we should do our own time capsule.
Oh,
To
I
be opened
like
up
that
100 years from
idea.
now.
Yeah, we could just don't bury it, don't do it in the same spot.
It's a big property. I think we could find another place. Dig a hole and put it in there.
But I don't know what you would want to put in it, that would be the thing.
Evelyn,
Well,
do you
I
have-
can tell you,
Hang on,
You can
Evelyn,
put
do you have any
captain's
more?
clothes, yes, such a variety of clothes.
I was saying, cause, I was at the Rural Hall when they opened up their town, their time capsule celebrating 50 years from their charter. They haven't getting their charter. They had, the schools had done a thing to put into the, so it was activities, what their parents did, what I do for fun. They had, of course, all the elected officials and staff. They had things of projects around town. They put in, some ephemera of, what was, happening in 1974 of, just pop culture type things. It was a neat assortment, and history of that community then. And I mean, it was the capsule itself, they used to, it looked like it was a child's casket. It was huge. And put it in there. And there was only one little bit that was wet. So that would be the thing is you do have to make sure about the moisture. But I would love to see us do something like that. I think it could be really cool.
Evelyn, do you have any more?
Not that I can remember unless somebody if you want to see the picture of my parents in costume, it's in the drugstore. But I don't know
I'll
if
swing
they
by.
want to go to costume. What do you wear that, I guess? But these were this was whatever year it was. I just gonna have to go back because I've gotten the two mixed up, but it was before, seemed like, L.H. Fountain, who was a congressman, I can't remember, what was L.H. Fountain? You're supposed to know Mike Rowe was involved. So it was when Fred Cates was mayor that this happened.
All right, thank you, Evelyn.
I'll try to remember more
Okay.
and tell you as you pass by with Theo.
Thank you. Matt?
I like the, just kind of spitballing, kind of thing. Just to get feedback on the ideas. Though I think that an evening event may be, better for a variety of reasons. I think it's easier to tie the heads of beds component to it, even if it is a weekend. And you know, I can't remember exactly when some of the businesses in town take their summer siestas. But I think that an evening event also will help us potentially promote, you know, the restaurant scene a little bit more. So if tourism board's involved, you know, there's not a lot of eateries that are typically open during the early part of a morning event, but are later on. But I think, you know, something that's in the evening, you could easily go have dinner or whatever, then walk over and do the stuff maybe at River Park. So I'm more partial to an evening event. Plus, we also would have a lot of competition for a morning event in Caldwell. They have their big parade and other things up there. That's kind of fun, if not a little ragtag, because it's just on a street in the middle of the community. And then also the River Festival as well. I think we've run up against some competition with it. And what Carborough does. I think an evening event kind of cuts a good lane where we probably wouldn't have as much competition, even though Mebane does a fireworks show, Chapel does a fireworks show, but we would have something different. I've never seen a drone show. I've seen it on TV, but I've never seen one in person. Even if it is pricier, I definitely would love Tourism Board and TDA to have some skin in the game. I would like to limit our general fund expenditures as much as possible. So having that participation would be good, as well as with the county. I do have a question about the spec banner. And I know that's not final, it's just to give us an idea. But I would hope that we would use the banner not just in the month of July, but throughout the year as well. I don't know how that would necessarily see some color clashing with our state and federal flag banners, blue and the burgundy potentially, but I would like us to, you know, if we do order those, to have them be something that we use kind of throughout the year as well, to promote, just for the cost and knowing that there's events throughout the year that we would get more use out of them. But other than that, I think you laid out some really good options, spec'd out the pricing. But I would like to lower that general fund expenditure as much as possible.
Thank you, Matt. Meg?
I think the last discussion I had was with the tourism board, which I agree, I think everybody was favorable for that and would like to partner. And we're just looking to see how much it's gonna run. But trying to tie as Matt said, the heads and beds, that might be an opportunity with that evening program. I think that's about all I have to add to the conversation. That's not already been said.
Especially since they have a healthier fund balance.
Hey, it's just one question, how much have you asked about the price of banners?
Yeah, the banners are about $5,000,
For how many?
36.
Okay, so not just a church.
You'd have to use them more
West
than
side
one day, and they would have to be appropriate.
Yeah, they would have to match the other banners that we have, and we would probably have to rotate them in some manner. We would sit down with Public Works and just figure out how to put them into the banner schedule.
Yeah, I agree, I'd like to see them year round. And if they're the only ones up, they don't have to match. In fact, I think it's beneficial if they don't, because it stands out.
Make that Hillsborough logo a little bigger.
Um,
Just an example.
And I mean, I'm seeing a couple things that I can think of some of the nonprofits would want to take on as they would use it as for fundraising. You know, some of the items that are in there, so I think I agree, I'd like to lower our exposure on the general fund, but I think there is huge opportunity for. I still think you could do some naming rights for that journal, that would be a big deal, and that would be the thing to go for. But some of the other pieces.
Shannon, one thing that just popped into my mind would be, I mean, which is usually the case, when I talk to other people who are interested and excited about something, it makes my brain get even more active, which I need more and more these days. So I would like to propose that we have some kind of suggestion box to the public about other ideas to celebrate. I would like to get other people's opinions about what is Hillsborough scale that people would like to see. I think people would like to be asked about that, and we'll probably come up with a lot more better ideas by, you know, kind of crowdsourcing the suggestions on that, especially inexpensive options to help us solve. So I don't know, maybe communications could put out you know, send your suggestions to this email or do something to help promote that, but I'll leave that up to Eric. If that's a good idea, maybe it's not.
No, I like that idea.
You'll just get an interesting mix of suggestions.
You may
I mean, you're getting everything from why would we even do anything? You guys are crazy to, this is great, we love it. It's always a mixed bag. So it sounds like maybe leading more towards the preference for evening event versus morning event. Is that what I'm hearing?
Excuse me.
Or we're not sure yet? Still thinking, we
I
want to
think
mull
it's-
it
I
over,
think
talk
it's a-
more with partners. See what kind of funding is available.
Yeah, I think that, I like the idea of small scale in the morning, just to give more to do
Mhm.
for the day, but yeah, not in the heat of the day, for sure. But, yeah, definitely with the majority of the effort coming in the evening. But yeah, I think it's too soon to really know, so.
Yeah, and I think you bring up good, with beds and heads and getting TDA and tourism board, on board. An evening event would probably be more akin to.
Especially if you had a follow-up where you had Saturday night and Sunday morning or Sunday afternoon. If you had some follow-up events, so it ends up being a weekend and not just one night, and that way it really does push those types of events.
Yeah, through the Alliance, we try and sometimes the day, like on Sundays, midday, we try and do like tours or something, so there is something to do kind of before you leave town. So we could potentially partner in that way too, to do some type of like a Rev War tour.
And there may be some things to do. We haven't done a lot of package deals with the restaurants where, you know, there's some things of, you know, we've seen on conferences, events, you know, you get your stamps and then you get a freebie or whatever, but we can do that as a community, and I've seen that done in communities. Because that, you know, promotes utilizing the businesses, frequenting them, dinner, things like that, and again, having that as a weekend option.
I don't think we had that many people come out for the 250th birthday of the town. And we had and I said before, we had every organization, somebody from each organization, even from somebody, some woman who I should remember her name was really good, did, not that the town can't do it, but she came to the meetings to do the publicity. And she was a lot of help, because staff's work to do, and I think, and I can't remember what she does, but she works working with the chamber, but if you mentioned her name, I just can't remember.
Yeah, we would do probably marketing with either event.
But it wasn't anything like this. I mean, it wasn't that costly. Just for the banners, basically, and maybe a few policemen, but it wasn't. And people, as I said, brought their own food and made it on the wall. And it was the afternoon, Sunday afternoon. And the mayor's rode in the car, you could probably, well, you could get Tom Stevens and who else? I don't, or Joe Phillips, and I don't know about Mr. Johnson's not in good health, I don't know. They had the mayor's ride in the car, only they all wouldn't ride together. I'll never forget that. They didn't speak to each other.
Thank you, Shannon.
Thank
More,
you.
more suggestions to come, I'm sure.
All right, thank you, appreciate your time.
Well, what push you do is just give you a list, give you a short list,
That's fine.
if I think of anything, but when you come out to the drugstore, look at my parents' picture.
Okay, I will.
It's worth looking in.
Okay, potential hot topics for the work session in the 24th.
We do have one addition, and Orange County Tax Assessor's Office has indicated they'll be ready to come do a presentation to the board, giving you an update on the reval process. So we'll have that to look forward to, in addition to recognizing Chief Hampton.
Nice, thanks. Okay, updates. Evelyn, do you have any updates to share?
And then a meeting, can have a meeting, and next week, I think, it's coming.
Okay. Megan?
I had a tourism board meeting, which we already discussed, but in addition to talking about A250, we discussed the scope with our partner contractors, the Alliance for Well, Hillsborough Arts Council, the Chamber, and the Historic Museum. Besides that, I attended the town and state dinner, where Kathleen and I both attended that, and we heard from the State House and Senate leaders from both parties. That's all I got.
Thank you. Matt?
As always, I'll leave TPO to the mayor. I did zoom into that meeting, and a lot of interesting updates that I know he'll share. Just a reminder that I will miss the joint hearing, as I'll be not even on this continent. And also will not be at the Visitors Bureau, which our February meeting was canceled because of weather. And I will not be able to attend the March meeting. I did attend the Burwell Gala, which was very nicely attended, given the monthly change. I serve as chair of the commission there, and Commissioner Ferguson attended as well. So I was glad to see a colleague there. And it was probably one of the more successful ones in terms of money wise. I think rough back of the napkin math, they ended up raising, with minus the ticket sales, I think at least $25,000 for the Burwell. So that was a very good event for Burwell. So.
Thank you, Matt. The only thing I have to report is, attended the TPO meeting. Was that last week before? There was a lot of good discussion around, the Destination 2055, deficiency and needs analysis, looking at 2055, regional transportation planning model and how to identify deficiencies in the model. I unfortunately had to leave before that discussion was concluded. But it was very stimulating and a lot of thoughts from a lot of people on how to make sure the model is accounting for the different dependencies and how therefore to make the 2055 model as strong as possible. That's the only meeting I have. Right.
I have no reports.
Kevin?
So as Matt was saying, I did attend the Burwell event, also attended the Orange County Rape Crisis Center event, and Megan was there at the town and state dinner, so it was quite a busy week. Graduated the AI Academy for public sector employees, which was really cool. Got a lot of not only, prompt engineering and some other tools to use, but also just those boundaries for, risk management and protection of data and transparency of use. So he's in Wisconsin, so there's a lot of folks in Wisconsin. Then South Carolina, it is catching fast. The public sector is lagging behind the private sector in some ways, but I'm really excited. North Carolina really taking the lead of this, and it's through the COGS. We're getting ready for planning for next spring fling for Fairview. So more to come there. And I think that's about it. City Vision is coming up. Yeah, I think that's about it right now.
Thank you, Kathleen.
Mayor,
Yes.
I also forgot to mention, Commissioner Hughes reminded me, I'm not gonna be here also for the joint planning meeting. And then, it might be too early to say, but I read a article today about I-85 delays and possible of the widening project. And do we know anything about that yet, or is that just what the News and Observer is showing? That's about it.
I have not seen that article.
Okay, it was in this morning's.
I haven't seen it.
Okay, it had I-85 widening and South Churton listed as.
Yeah, we saw it on Friday. Stephanie and I were looking into it because that's the linchpin. If they don't move forward with that and the interchange project, South Churton Street, even if funded, can't move forward. And right now, the current target date for I-85 under the revised SIP is 2033. So that just means it's pushed South Churton that much farther out. I will caveat that to say that all of the state transportation funding right now is sort of a question mark until they can see what they can get in federal resources for Western North Carolina. And so they're sort of waiting on that before they release any updated information.
I kind of wondered if it was just too early to know exactly how we followed it. Thank you.
Thank you. And no reports? Okay, and staff reports are in the packet. And I will entertain a motion to enter closed session in order to protect attorney-client privilege.
So moved.
Kathleen, thank you, Matt. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. We'll take a little break.